Hey, this is Tom Atonga, Bullet Club original, OG, triple O freaking G, New Japan Pro Wrestling athlete, and you're listening to Wrestle Inn.
Hello to the wrestling fans of the world, and welcome to Wrestle Inn's preview for New Japan's G1 Climax 31. This is our first time doing something like this, but we're hoping to make it a more regular occurrence. I am Kieran, maker of GIFs and public enemy #1 of TV Asahi. Joining me to go through the exciting or disappointing tournament, depending on who you ask, are some of the residents of Wrestle Inn from across the globe. We're worldwide. To help you get to know them better, here they are to tell you their all-time favourite wrestler, current favourite wrestler, and the main promotion they watch now, starting with the elite historian herself, MX.
Hello. My favorite wrestlers and my current wrestlers are the same. Favorite wrestler would be the Young Bucks. Favorite tag team is the Bucks. Or favorite wrestler is Hiromu. Favorite tag team is the Bucks. Doing great.
Awesome. And what main promotion that you watch now? What's your go-to?
I mostly watch AEW, and I'm also digging into GCW. Stay tuned on Wrestle Inn for that one.
GCW has been amazing recently. Next up, we have the head of the Jungle Kiona Prayer Circle, joining us from the land down under, Trent.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, my name is Trent. You can find me on Twitter at OneUpCulture. If you couldn't work out from that introduction, my favourite wrestler is, of course, Jungle Kiona. And if you can't work out from that, my main promotion that I watch is Stardom.
And rounding out the panel, we have the woman who loves wrestling as much as Abushi loves fireworks, Libby.
Hi, yes, I'm Libby. You can find me at Libby @Libby_Cadman. Shockingly, my favorite all-time wrestler is probably Kota Ibushi or Kenny Omega. I'm a Golden Lovers stan. And my current favorite wrestler, I'm really digging Ricky Starks at the moment, Konosuke Takeshita, and I mostly watch AEW and New Japan.
There we have
one
it.
of us mainly watches New Japan here.
That's a very good point. So we've got MX, Libby, Trent, and myself, Kieran. But before we look at the blocks, one of our fellow wrestling writers, at Most Useless Dave on Twitter, sent us the question: what does the G in G1 stand for? Now, if you ask New Japan, it means grade, so it's the grade 1 climax. If you ask Goto, the G in G1, of course, stands for Goto. Shingo said it stands for guts, but what do you guys think the G in G1 stands for?
Well, I think New Japan are kind of close to the mark, but it's just a bit of misunderstanding. For me, the G1 actually stands for great, as in great one, which means The Rock is actually going to be appearing in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Libby, what do you think the G stands for?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great, and then I did some Googling into it, and it's grade, and like that was used for horse racing. Like it's grade 1 horses, and that's where like it comes from. And so I can't not when I see it, I'm like, good horse one. I know that it's not that, but I can't get the concept of like horses out of my brain now.
I mean, Taguchi done that whole thing where he was a horse at some point, wasn't he?
He was a zebra that lost their parents and was adopted by a wrestler and became the zebra wrestler.
And MX, what do you say the G in G1 stands for?
Well, I always thought that the G in G1 standed for, it's kind of like that old BTE bit FTRR. It's just like you get it. You know what I mean? Like nobody has to say it, nobody has to explain it, but the people who know, they know what it really stands for. They get it.
They get it. The good one.
So let's dive into the blocks, like where Abushi diving off the balcony in Budokan Hall. Starting with the A block, of course. Just to run down who's in the A block, you've got Kota Ibushi, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, Zack Saber Jr, Grado Khan, Kenta, Tangaloa, and Yujiro Takahashi. So kicking off with yourself, Libby, which 3 wrestlers do you think are contenders to possibly win the block?
So I'm a little bit biased, obviously. But looking at the block and where I feel like stories like moving to, what makes sense, I think maybe Zack Saber Jr., Naito, or this is a personal one for me, Kenta, I think would be a really interesting win for the G1A block.
How about you, MX?
I'm actually going to share with Libby here on Kenta. I think Kenta's really been tearing it up this year, and I know New Japan seems to be a little bit worried about their outreach into the North American market. And Kenta, like, he's well known here. People like him a lot. His appearances in AEW were good, so I think he'd be a good fit. If I was going with my heart, though, I would also think Zack Saber Jr., and I think Naito is also a good pick. No, the true ace of New Japan, Toru Yano. He's going to run away with it. This is his year. He's going to run away with it.
It's got to happen eventually.
Yeah, it's gotta. And this is the year. This is the one.
And Trent?
Look, I'm a little bit biased. My boy Naito is in this block, and I do think it's very convenient that his final match in the block is against Grado Khan. He needs to avenge his New Japan Cup loss earlier in the year. I think that's going to put him into the final. If it's not going to be him, there's a great story surrounding Kota Ibushi going back to back to back. And if it's not going to be him, I'm with the field here. I think Zack Saber Jr., this is his time to sort of jump up into that upper echelon that we've seen him sort of tease a potential move up to.
So nobody picked him as a winner, but of course in the A block is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Shingo Takagi. So seeing how nobody thinks he's going to win, it means he's going to take a few losses. Who do you think is going to get a win over Shingo and earn themselves a future shot at his title? MX, why don't you kick off?
I think Ishii is probably a good shout. I think, you know, he works real hard, and he's always the tough one to beat. And I think Kenta and I don't know. I'm gonna stick with those ones.
Who's good? Who's good? I want to give a quick shout out to Corey from Wrestle Inn. He's got a feature coming out, and he described Tomohiro the first time he saw Tomohiro Ishii as if a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle had achieved human form.
That is incredible. Poetry.
It was amazingly accurate. It probably made me chuckle when I read it.
I love that.
Trent, who do you think is going to pick up a wins over Shingo?
I think Shingo is going to be in the running for the block final, but the champions almost never make it. So my main thoughts are there's not going to be a lot of time like last year for title defenses. I think we're only going to see one. So I think it's going to be between Tomohiro Ishii, who faces him in the first night. So that's a nice little upset. We always see upsets in the first night. And I'm going to say, because apparently I'm favouring this lanky Brit, I'm going to say Zack Saber Jr. as well.
It should always be Zack Saber Jr.
I thought you said lanky prick for a second.
Well, it's interchangeable, isn't it?
That also, it fits. Yeah, no, it fits.
It depends if your feelings are positive or negative on the day.
Well, I mean, it's always positive towards Zack, but it's a positive prick.
Posy prick.
Yeah.
And Libby, who do you think is going to defeat Shingo?
Oh man, it's the trend continues, I suppose. My first thought was Zack Saber Jr. I did a little research, and the current champion has not won the G1 since 2000, I think. I might be wrong. It was a quick Google. So I really think Zack Saber Jr.'s style against Shingo, who's just this powerhouse. I mean, the dude is like legs. There's like two trees attached to a boulder, you know, where Zack Saber Jr. comes in with that sly, fast, and catch you out of nowhere style. I think that is what can bring down that sort of power or challenge it better than just a power versus power situation.
Well, funnily enough, we actually got a question on Twitter from at Rainmaker SZN, and he was asking us how excited are we all for Zack versus Shingo, and I had that noted down for later. But you know, everybody's clearly very excited for it already.
So excited.
I think Libby hit the nail. I think Libby hit the nail on the head. You know, they're two entirely different wrestlers. and it's going to be really interesting to see how they mesh. And I'm not sure how they're going to mesh, but they're definitely going to, and they're definitely going to put on something special.
That's kind of Zack's specialty, though. He always has his best matches against opponents who specialize very differently from him. And he's always good at really reversing what opponents who try to overpower him, really turning that around and putting them in a very dangerous situation. And it's so fast. He's so fast at it. I love it. Love Zack Saber Jr.
Shingo's got some really good moves that can be countered into fancy Zack submissions as well. Like the Last of the Dragon or Made in Japan, I can see Zack sliding out of that, rolling him up, getting him to about 14 different submission holds, and having some real fun just breaking the dragon down bit by bit. Fun fact, this match has only happened once before, back in WXW all the way in 2009. So not only is it an interesting matchup, it's also a very fresh matchup.
I love
that. What a treat.
So sticking with the A block, other than Shingo versus Zack, because we're all very excited for that one, which other matches are you most excited for?
I think I'll go. I think Yano versus Kenta is going to be a lot of fun. I love Yano matches. I am a #1 Toru Yano stan, and Kenta is very fun and very clever and very willing to do something fun and goofy and commit to the bit, and I think he and Yano can construct something that's just really great, really creative, really fun, as sort of a palate cleanser, in the middle of a card somewhere. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
Brent, what matches are you most looking forward to?
Oh, look, if I had to narrow it down to 3, the first match is, as we've been talking about, the champ, Takagi Shingo versus Tetsuya Naito on the 26th of September. To me, this is the most interesting matchup in the tournament. You've got the two sort of big guys in Los Ingobernables to hop on. They've only fought once before. That was a couple of years ago, but now Shingo's the champ. It's kind of a dynamic change. That should be fantastic. Toriano versus Grado Khan on the 23rd of September. I love their New Japan Cup matchup. Grado Khan's demeanor is the perfect counterbalance to that kind of Yano craziness and goofiness. I want to see them evolve that story. And finally, just to combine everything we've been talking about, Naito versus Zack Saber Jr. on the 18th of September, opening night. These are my two favourite guys in the tournament, and they have brilliant chemistry together. They always put on great matches, and I think they're going to really look to set the tone for both of their tournaments on that first night.
Their match last year was so good.
Oh, and shout out to every and any Tomohiro Ishii matchup, because it's a guaranteed 4.25 star match.
That quarter makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And Libby, what Abushi matches are you most looking forward to? No, which matches in general?
Like a window you saw through to my little Abushi heart. So I'm really looking forward to Abushi versus Kenta. That feels really fresh to me. I think they're both athletes that are incredibly talented in a sports arena, but also they both have this very kind of magical ability to be taken seriously whilst also doing the fun stuff, the comedy, and just they interweave it really well individually. So I'm really interested to see them have a kickoff. I'm also really a little tingly for Abushi versus Shingo in this space. The G1, the essentially a title shot is on the line. But in this situation where it's just wins they need to get, it's just the points, the tension, the goals feel a little bit different. The one part of the G1 is that you go really hard in one match, are you going to be able to win the next one and finish the tournament? So I'm really excited to see how they match up in these circumstances.
And of course, in the A block, as we've said, we're blessed to have the true ace of New Japan, Toru Yano. He can beat anyone, any night. He's always, he's the wild card.
Yes.
Who do you think is going to fall to Yano's trickery in the A block this year? Kick off with
everyone.
All of them.
Yano's going.
He's gonna run
Yano's
away
going
with
9-0.
He's gonna run away with it this year. This is his year.
Yano 9-0. Trent, who do you seriously think is going to lose to who big is going to lose to Yano in this tournament?
Look, I think Kenta being the day one matchup for Toru Yano, I think that's a bit of a danger match for Kenta. As it's been mentioned, they'll play off each other really well. But I can see Yano setting the stage for his kind of antics here, just annoying Kenta and then picking up the surprise win. It's not necessarily a big name either, but I do think we're going to see Tangaloa fall to Yano as kind of his welcome to the big leagues and the singles tournaments. This is his first chance. It's a litmus test for him. He's got a lot of great talent to deal with, but I think he's going to be embarrassed by Yano as kind of that, welcome to G1. This is what it's all about.
Libby, who is going to lose to Yano's trickery?
I definitely felt like Tangaloa is going to fall victim to it. We've seen that, in his matches with Tekkers, his buttons can be pushed and he kind of goes to this different kind of phase in his attitude where it's this kind of carelessness like, oh, okay, we're going to go now. And I think Yano will bring that out of him. I could also see maybe Yurijo having they could put on something that's quite funny and fun. The Bullet Club element of this versus sort of Yano. There's always been that going on. So I think either one of them could present kind of a place to be deceived and a win taken from them.
And MX, are you keeping with your 100% record for Yano to go win all his matches, or do you want to highlight someone?
Well, just in case we are in the darkest timeline, which I don't know if there's any evidence for that, I think some potential losses to Yano. I'm going to go with the rest of the pack and say Tangaloa here. Tangaloa, what the hell? Tangaloa here. Just botching left, right, and center tonight. I think hubris is really going to be his downfall. I don't think he has both of GOD, I think, have a problem with, taking certain sorts of things seriously and might be really taken in by Yano's kind of goofy demeanor. So I think he's definitely going to fall for sure. I think Grado Khan, I don't know which one it is. I think he is a likely candidate to fall to Yano. I think that one of the fun things about Yano is that he really does bring the confident and serious ones down a peg, and I think that'll be fun. I'm pretty sure Shingo will not fall to Toru Yano. He's a little too savvy, I think.
I feel like there's maybe somewhere along the same vein, depending on Abushi's health and if it's right for him to go through, that a non painful loss for Abushi could be to Yano. If he's outsmarted in a certain way, or it's quite comical, Abushi plays into that as well. It wouldn't hurt him to have a loss to Yano if that needs to be the case.
Well, that's true.
You can certainly argue that Ibushi's greatest strength is not his smarts. So Yano will definitely have that over him.
The true genius of Yano, I think, is that he can lose or win against anyone, and it doesn't damage anyone. It all makes sense. That's the true genius of Yano.
While giving them a night off as well in this grueling tournament, it's the perfect wrestler for a G1 tournament.
So before we pick our winners for the A block, another question from @Rainmaker SZM was, what are our expectations for Grado Khan's run in the G1, as he's a bit of a polarizing wrestler? Lots of people think he's really great, lots of people aren't so keen. I had the privilege of him being at Rev Pro, which is my local independent promotion, on excursion, and he done my head in. He'd always do, he does his big scream with the Mongolian chops. which is a bit grating on TV, but having it in a small venue in the East End of London with 200 people and him screaming at the top of his lungs really gets you after a couple of shows. When he re-debuted with New Japan, I wasn't very keen on him, but I think his run in the New Japan Cup, especially his match with Tetsuya Naito, really changed the ball for me and made me a fan. I think he's going to do quite well. I think come the final night, he might be in contention. He's facing Naito. But I definitely don't. It's too soon for him to be a big time contender. You know, it's his first G1, but I don't think he's going to be embarrassed by any means. Libby, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a very polarizing wrestler because, you know, personally, I'm not a United Empire fan. Putting that aside, I think Grado Khan is a very good wrestler, can tell stories. Had that whole bout with Yano, and you know that was entertaining. And we have seen him put the pedal to the metal as well. It's difficult to know, really. I feel like he's very important to New Japan right now. He's part of quite a Gaijin stable and is sort of their Japanese spokesperson. You know, if a promo's being cut, he's the one that's translating it. You know, if there's backstage comments, he's always in them. So I think he's very important to New Japan. It'll be interesting. I think he'll go far. I think you're right. He won't, you know, first G1 won't win, but it's definitely gonna, I think, be him really like stepping out a bit more, really showing what he's capable of and building on what he's done.
MX, how do you think Grado Khan's going to do?
You know, it's interesting. He's kind of one of those wrestlers. Like, I think he's fine as a wrestler. It's just, and it's through no fault of his own. He's just not made for me. He's not my vibe. He's not for me. I think he's definitely for other people, and for those people, like, he's a very solid wrestler. He's a very interesting character. He's got personality. He's got a spark. So I think they are going to, you know, keep him on the burner a bit, have him involved in stuff, maybe more stuff than I personally would like, but that's neither here nor there. I think they will do right by him. I don't think he's going to win the G1. I think he'll be comfortably in the upper middle of the pack.
And Trent, how is Grado Khan going to do in his first ever G1 Climax?
Look, I love the Grado Khan. I think he's a fantastic character. He's so unique amongst the current New Japan landscape that the moment you see him, he stands out. Look, he's not a 5-star in-ring guy, and I'm not sure he's ever going to actually get there either, which maybe stops him from becoming like your big name. But he's going to have a role because he can put on a good, solid match. He can be good enough. But his character can tell unique stories and match up sort of possibilities that a lot of the other guys on the roster you can't really get out of just on their own. With everyone here, I agree. He's not going to win the G1, especially not in his first year. He'll do well. It's a stacked block, so it's going to be hard for him to sort of be in that top 2, top 3. But he's going to get 1 or 2 big scalps. They're going to sort of, like in the New Japan Cup, they're going to say, this guy's a future player in our company. Whether it's going to be maybe Tomohiro Ishii, maybe Kota Ibushi, maybe Zack Saber Jr. I think 1 or 2 of those 3 guys are going to fall to Grado Khan, and he'll probably drop 1 or 2 matches to either Tangawa or Yujiro Takahashi just to keep him humble, keep him on that middle stanchion.
So rounding out the A block, then it's the big question: who is going to win the A block? My pick is Tetsuya Naito. He's, you know, been away from the scene for a while. He hasn't won the G1 since 2017, and he actually put, I think in his backstage comments, he said he won it in 2013, he won it in 2017, and now it's another 4 years, so he's going to win it again. Apparently, Tetsuya Naito is saying he'll win the G1 every 4 years. And I think he, just out of that block, I'm hard pushed to see Abushi making the G1 finals for a 4th consecutive year. It's by every means possible. I can't, there's no way I see that happening. And next in that line is Tetsuya Naito for me. How about you, Trent?
Yeah, look, I actually have the exact same answer as you. I think this is Tetsuya Naito's time to do it again. He's becoming Olympic Naito. Every 4 years he wins the G1. So get ready in 2025 for when he goes through again. Abushi, yeah, it's 4th straight finals. I think they can tell a story where he's going to get there, but sort of make that a subplot. But I think he's going to fall short. Yeah, I'm all on board. Los Ingobernables de Japón. Give me Naito again.
Libby, who's making the G1 final? Who's winning the A block?
In my heart, I want to say Abushi. Listen, I'm here for 4 time in a row Abushi finalist, back to back to back Abushi G1 winner. I'd love that. But as much proof by last year, if he wins, it has to mean something. He won, lost the briefcase, and then ended up having a title match anyway. You want the G1 to mean something. So deep in my heart, of course, I want Abushi to win. But I do think that Naito probably most likely. I'd actually love to see Kenta win this block. I think the Japanese side of Bullet Club, I think I would love to see them have this win for them.
And MX finally rounding out the A block for us. Who's gonna get to the final?
Yeah, so I could see maybe I could see Ibushi winning the A block just because maybe as a way to make up for the terrible year they inflicted on him last year. But also, I do have concerns about his health going into this. It is very worrisome. I think it's early for him to be doing an entire G1. So I would like to at least spare him those extra big exhausting matches, you know what I'm saying? I like Naito as a finalist. The thing about Naito and the top of the New Japan card is it's kind of like the same 5 folks shuffling around a lot of the time. And I love those 5 folks, don't get me wrong, and I love Naito and I love to watch him win stuff. But I think it's still a good time to bring some fresher faces higher up, and I think it's got to be Kenta. I think it should be Kenta's year, honestly. I think he should be presented way more. I think he's got a real way of connecting to people and being funny and getting buzz around him, and he's a great wrestler and he deserves it, and I want to see him win it. I do think the larger question is who's going to do the job to Yujiro. They're going to give him one.
I think it's interesting you've said that, because on the final night it's Shingo versus Yujiro. And
don't
don't do that to him.
I don't think for a future title shot, but with all the House of Torture stuff and Evil and the interference, I can see Evil getting involved in that match, or Show, or Grado, or Gado's not in it, sorry, or Dick Togo, or all of them. It's very odd for me to see Shingo versus Yujiro on the last night. I think something might happen there.
Oh,
that's
Lord.
What we call a sacrificial lamb. Shingo's going to murder the Tokyo Pimp.
I can't remember who did the job to him last year, but I remember it was a grave injustice. Was it Jeff Cobb?
It was Jeff Cobb, yeah.
Oh, broke my heart.
Well,
I think it's going to be Grado Khan who does the job, and maybe Yano as well, just to that'll give him 4 points. That's enough for him, right?
I think he only got 2. He got 2 last year, didn't he? He only got Jeff Cobb on the final night.
Oh, I'm letting him exponentially improve then.
Yeah, double. In another 5 years, he'll be up to 10.
Double or nothing. Secret hint: he's going to AEW. Sorry, guys.
Don't speak that evil into the world. Don't do it.
No, not evil. Yujiro.
No, Yujiro is worse.
Moving on to the B block, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, Sanada, Taichi, Tamatonga, Evil, Jeff Cobb, and Chase Owens. So once again, which 3 wrestlers do you think are real contenders to win the block? MX, we'll start with you.
Well, obviously Chase Owens. No. God. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. I would like to see Taichi win the block. That is gross favoritism on my part. That's not logic. That's just feelings. I love Taichi. I love Tekkers. I'd like to see him go on to the final. I think most likely though, it's gonna be Okada. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, I
Because
agree.
he doesn't have a belt. He had a slow year last year. It's gonna be Okada. Let's be real.
Libby, how about you? Which wrestlers do you think stand a chance of making the final?
Of course, Kazoo stands a chance as always. We've also seen a lot of slow building strength for Sonada. I think, he's gone to the finals before. I also feel Jeff Cobb has
good
a
shout.
very good chance, especially because when you look at the B block narratively, there's really not a lot of story between any of the wrestlers, but Jeff Cobb has some legit beef with some of these people. And so I think not only is he on the rise, but it feels like he's got a lot of motivation to want to win the G1.
Brent, who has a chance of winning the B block?
Look, the rules of this kind of thing are, what are the final day matchups? And Evil and Sonata facing each other again on the final night, I think that's very important to look at. I think this year there's a very good chance Evil wins that match, gets his sort of win back off of Sonata in the G1. That could put him in the final. I know people aren't high on Evil, but New Japan clearly are. I could see him making the final and just giving everyone that sense of dread about what could happen. Sonata as well. You can't look past Okada, though. Again, he's got a big final night match. It's against Jeffrey Cobb. They've just fought at Wrestle Grand Slam. Jeff Cobb won that. Here's his chance to get a win back and do it to go through to the G1 final.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love that MX has picked Taichi. There's no way he will, but I absolutely adore Taichi. He's fantastic.
I love him. I had to go with my heart, although my heart also
But
goes
I
to
think
Jeff Cobb.
realistically, I agree with Trent. I agree with that too. I think Okada's an obvious favorite. I think then you've got Evil, unfortunately, based on the final night with Sonata. And they evidently like Evil and what he's doing for some strange reason. And then I think, you've got to toss up maybe Jeff Cobb or Sonata as your outsiders making the final. But one man none of us mentioned is the current IWGP US Heavyweight Champion, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Who do you think will get a win over Tanahashi to earn a future title shot from the block? We'll start with you, Libby.
It's interesting because, there's a lot of talent you would expect to be in the G1 over in America right now. And of course, Tanahashi was just there defending the belt. But it's difficult because I think they really want Tana to really champion the US belt right now. I can maybe see, because Tana has, such prestige and the US belt, I think it could set up for Jeff Cobb for going for the US belt. He gets a win over Tanahashi in the G1 and goes, I have a title shot now because I beat you. Let's go. I think Jeff Cobb.
MX, who do you think might beat Tanahashi to get a title shot?
Stick with me on this one.
Here we go.
Yoshihashi.
Okay.
Stick with me.
Are they crickets, I hear?
It pains me. Trust me. This hurts nobody more than it hurts me. But they give Yoshihashi the weirdest wins.
True.
Do you know that he was Kenny Omega's first loss in his winning G1 on the first night of the tournament? The weirdest wins go to Yoshihashi. I don't understand
What's weird
it.
about that? That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
They give him a biscuit now and then, we love you.
They do. And, I know that there are a lot of really genuine Yoshihashi fans out there, so I don't mean to sound like I'm burying him. I think Yoshihashi, and I don't see Okada going over Tana just because like I don't see them putting Okada in the US title belt contention. For some reason, like that's just kind of the vibe I get. And I don't know, maybe Sonata, maybe Evil. They like to throw them a bone every once in a while.
And I'll answer for Trent because he told me privately that he's secretly hoping Chase Owens will get the title shot and defeat Tanahashi.
Oh,
What do you mean secretly? I think that makes perfect sense. You want an American expansion. Who better than Chase?
disgusting, grotesque.
But let's
I do want to
imagine
defend Yoshihashi for a moment. Look, he's not fantastic, but this has been his, well, not even just year. Like, this never six-man title thing that they've done with him has legitimately made him an interesting part of the New Japan landscape. I think they're going to use that momentum and give him a couple of, maybe, as we've said, surprise wins. I don't know if it's Tanahashi, but I think he'll beat, like, maybe Evil, just to sort of go, hey, Yoshihashi, congrats, wave your stick.
He beat Evil. I can't remember if he beat Evil during the G1 or shortly thereafter, or if he just like got really spicy at Evil during the G1 last year.
he got super spicy. He had him
was
in the
spicy.
the butterfly lock, which is an awful submission. They had me biting that Evil was going to tap out. It was they done a tremendous job in that match.
So forgive me, I haven't been following the closest attention to New Japan lately, but Yoshihashi still has the never six-mans, or did he like lose them and then regain them?
Nope, they haven't dropped them. They've held it for over a year. They've got by far the most defenses in a single reign. They're by far the most successful never six-man champions of all time.
Gross. I have to, since you have given me a platform, like I have to speak this. I have to put this out into the world. Yoshihashi didn't get the pin in that match. He was also there. They celebrated it as like this big victory. Finally, like Yoshihashi gets the title. Why didn't they give him the pin? He was also
You can't
there.
make it too unrealistic now.
You know what, Max? This'll be his pin. This'll be it. He's gonna like push Taichi. He's gonna push Taichi. He's gonna be like Taichi's gonna be super evil one night. He's gonna be like full on Tekkers, and then like somehow Yoshihashi will get like a pin on him, and everyone.
Are you suggesting to me that Yoshihashi is going to pin Taichi? You come into my
He's gonna make him tap. He's gonna make him submit.
You come into my house and speak this evil to me.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right, those are my spicy hot Yoshihashi takes. Thank you.
I can only apologize if I had known MX was not a Yoshihashi fan. She would have never been invited onto this podcast. But getting back on track then, which matches are you most excited for from the B block? Trent, why don't you kick us off?
Look, I mean, this is the basic bitch pick, but it's Okada Tanahashi on night one. I don't care if it's the obvious one, it's a guaranteed banger. Jeff Cobb versus Hiraki Gotu on the 29th of September. I think that's going to be a really good match. Those guys are both great sort of boss big match wrestlers, and Jeff Cobb's riding all of the momentum right now. As for a third pick, look, October 1st, fuck it, let's watch the world burn. Chase Owens versus Evil. We know this is going to be the drizzling shits, but it's Bullet Club versus Bullet Club. They might do something interesting there.
Do you think?
No, but
sorry, I'm a bit stunned. MX, which matches do you think are gonna stand out from the B block?
A bunch of Jeff Cobb matches. The man is gold. The man is fantastic. I love him to pieces. I'm interested in seeing Jeff Cobb and Taichi meet in the G1 again. Their last G1 match was really fun and interesting because Jeff Cobb was still babyface. I mourn for better times. And he very much had a vibe to him that was just like, dude, I just want to wrestle. Like, why are you doing this? Like, let's just have a wrestle. And Taichi wasn't having it. So it'll be interesting to see how his change in character interacts with Taichi. Also, I think Jeff Cobb and Sonata is going to be really good. Obviously, Jeff Cobb and Okada is going to be very good. Jeff Cobb Tanahashi. Even Jeff Cobb Tama, I think will be a really interesting matchup. He's really good. Cobb is at like big man matches, which I'm not generally a fan of, but I'm a fan of his. Yeah, that's it.
You okay there?
Yeah. That was a thinking noise, and then I realized that I've been talking too long, so I stopped.
And Libby, which matches do you think are going to be the best from B Block?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the Jeff Cobb matches they're gonna slap, aren't they? They're gonna be great. I think Jeff Cobb and Goto will be really interesting. Goto's gone to the final before. People sleep on Goto, but he has a lot to give, especially in these G1 situations. I actually think like Jeff Cobb and Tama will be very interesting. I think they both their characters have a lot of attitude, bad attitude, and when you put that when you mirror people, sometimes you can get something really explosive. And of course, I think any of the Okada matches are actually going to be really good. I have a really good feeling about Okada's narrative through the B Block, about how he's going to really like push himself more and more as it goes. I think Okada's been on the back burner a little bit, and I think the G1 is going to be his time to make a statement, going back up to that, really stapling himself in the top scene again.
So other than Trent wishing to watch the world burn, none of us mentioned an Evil match, who's a man of much discussion at the moment, and at least amongst English-speaking fans, it's almost entirely negative. He recently challenged and lost to Shingo Takagi, thank God, for the title. But of course, in the process of the evening, the House of Torture was debuted as like a little subunit of Bullet Club. What are your thoughts on Evil and the newly formed House of Terror? Libby, why don't you let us know?
Well, the House of Torture, hot. I think it's interesting. We've seen subsections of the Bullet Club before. It's interesting because these mini factions tend to cause fractures later on. So I'm excited to see where it goes. There was a part of me that thought Show might appear in the G1 as like a real like staple to like, Show has really changed. I'm not an Evil fan, but I am interested to see how Evil does usually come out with other people, but is the rest of the House of Torture going to come out with him? Are they going to interfere? Probably. It's Evil. But it's interesting. The Bullet Club used to be all about Asians coming in and feeling unjustly looked down upon in this Japanese promotion, and now there's a whole section of the Japanese Bullet Club. So I think it's fascinating. It's interesting where it's going, and also sort of them versus the United Empire. Like they're kind of these floating factions that have kind of, I don't know, it feels like the United Empire represent the Gaijins now, and there's this House of Torture section, and it feels messy, but I'm interested as always.
MX, what do you think about Evil and the House of Torture?
They well and truly cannot figure out what to do with the Bullet Club these days, can they? Okay. So I wasn't sure at first whether House of Torture was like an actual split off or just a Bullet Club subsection. It's a Bullet Club subsection, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, the Bullet Club logo is on the sleeve of their shirt.
Yeah, I would actually far prefer if it was just a straight up split from the Bullet Club, because the Bullet Club right now has so many disparate pieces that don't actually interact with each other at all. Like, it's not even that there's friction, they just don't have anything to do with each other. Jay White had nothing to say to Evil when he came back. Like, there was just like, it was just like there are a bunch of like disparate people who are like kind of there. Like, what does Kenta have to do with Evil?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Jay White even. And like, don't even get me started on like, say, the juniors or the ones who are mostly in New Japan Strong. Like, it's just so odd. And I think if we had a lot of sub-factions that had a lot of friction, I think if we had, you know, just more, like the Bullet Club like used to be a group. They were a crew. They were tight knit like from the beginning. Like that was what marked them out. And I think they kind of learned a lot of the wrong lessons from previous eras of the Bullet Club, because it wasn't cheating that characterized the Bullet Club. It was like the friendship and the relationships and how they interacted with each other that made it something interesting and special. So sorry, in conclusion, I just think that House of Torture is another one of those ideas that they give to the Bullet Club, and especially to Evil. I think Evil is unfairly maligned because they don't do anything good with him character-wise. I think it's one of those things, just like his original heel turn, that is like very interesting in concept and very intriguing in the beginning, that they're just not going to do anything with.
And Trent, what are your thoughts on the House of Torture and everyone's favorite Evil?
Look, I was a big fan of Evil in Los Ingobernables de Japón, and when they initially did the turn, I was really excited because I thought here's a chance for him to showcase what he's about. But they've stripped like the best part of him as a wrestler away, and that was his hostile. And until they return to that, as interesting as his character is, and I really dig the look, I really dig his character style. But as soon as the bell rings and an Evil match starts now, I tune out because it's boring. It's over the top ref interferences and bumps, and it's just not an interesting watch, unfortunately. As for the House of Torture, look, if it leads to a properly done Bullet Club Civil War, then I'm actually all on board, because the Elite Firing Squad sort of story that we got a couple of years back, it didn't work because half of the group didn't give a damn and they didn't want to do it. So if they actually can build a proper coherent story with two heelish groups just kind of going to war with each other, characters like Evil, like Jay White, like Kenta, you can have some really interesting stories told there, and it could be great. But we're not going to see it anytime soon because Jay White doesn't really want to travel to Japan too much right now. The factions split all over the world in these mini subgroups that can't really interact. And for the G1, it's just going to be what we saw against Shingo Takagi, which is a whole lot of interference, a whole lot of slow matches, and a whole lot of like, when's this getting done with? So, yeah.
So, rounding out the B block then, who is everyone's pick to win? I think Okada. Straight up, I think Okada's making it to the final. Trent, who do you think's making the final?
Look, I've done some long-range forecasting. Japan's going to be raining at the end of October, so yeah, it's going to be Kazuchika Okada.
MX, who do you think is going to win the B block and make the G1 final?
My head says Okada, but my heart says Cobb or Taichi.
And Libby, who are you going for?
Going for back to back. Yeah, it's Okada, I think, or King of Huge Arms, Jeffu Kobu. I think it would be great to see him really evolve out of this.
King of Huge Arms would actually make a really good shirt, like the King of Strong style one.
Where's New Japan? If you're listening, if you've hacked this podcast recording, pay me now for this. I would like royalties. Thank you very much.
So, one final question, of course, it's the big one. Who is going to win G1 Climax 31? I think we're getting a Naito Okada final. It will be a new addition to their long-going rivalry. They've never met in a G1 final before. They haven't met since Wrestle Kingdom 14, when obviously Naito became the first double champ. I think it makes perfect sense. It'll be a cracking match, and I think Naito wins, and we hopefully get Naito versus Shingo at Wrestle Kingdom. Libby, who's going to win G1 Climax 31?
I was torn, but your explanation, I think, has won me over, and I think a Naito Shingo title match would be just excellent. I think it would be a brilliant watch, just stacked with narrative, great wrestling. But of course, my Abushi simp heart would love to see this G1 pay off for him.
MX, who do you think will win the G1 this year?
I really think that you're right on the money with a Naito Shingo Wrestle Kingdom main event. Like, that just seems to write itself, doesn't it? But I would love for Cobb and Shingo to have a rematch this time for the heavyweight belt and shake things up again. Maybe Cobb can win it. I don't think that would happen though, but I would like to see it.
I agree. Their match at Wrestle Kingdom this year
Oh.
is still easily probably my match of the year. I've never seen anything like that.
Oh god, it was so good. And it was just like shoved in the middle of the card somewhere random. It was so good.
And Trent, please tell us why you think that Yujiro Takahashi is going to win the G1.
No, I don't think it's Takahashi. I think the finals is going to be a rematch from Wrestle Grand Slam. Toru Yano versus Chase Owens. This time Chase Owens is going to get his win back. Seriously, though, I think it is going to be Okada and Naito again. If it wasn't for the fact that Naito and Shingo were in the G1 together, I would have said Naito to lead to Naito Shingo at Wrestle Kingdom, probably night one. I actually think it's going to be Okada that wins. That's going to set up Shingo Okada again, night one of Wrestle Grand Slam. Will Ospreay will defend his title night two, and it's going to lead to Okada and Ospreay facing off on night three to unify these two IWGP World Heavyweight Championships that are floating around.
New Japan, what are you doing with your booking?
Yeah, what's everyone's thoughts on the crazy announcement that has been met by a lot of varied opinions? MX, what do you think about 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom?
It's the worst idea. It's the worst idea. I think I think it really damages the prestige of Wrestle Kingdom. I think 2 nights is kind of defensible, sort of, but nobody needs that much wrestling all at once, I don't think. And like, you can't keep it special with over 3 nights and like keep the stakes very high. You end up having to do absurd contortions in order to keep things interesting, and then you just have me shaking my head going, New Japan, what is your booking?
Yeah, I agree. I think Wrestle Kingdom this year was great. It was 2 very short, compact cards. Every match, nearly every match was important, had meaning. Every match got given decent time. Because I remember Wrestle Kingdoms of the past where the junior tag matches would open and they'd get like 8 minutes. Whereas, this year, I think it was ELP and Ishimori versus Roppongi 3K, I want to say. And they had the great match with ELP obviously was always going for low blows, and Roppongi 3K wore a cup to counter him, and they had time to tell that story in the match. Libby, what do you think about 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom?
It breaks my heart a little bit. It's I understand. It's they want as many people to come to Wrestle Kingdom as possible, so as many people can pay for a ticket and enjoy the experience and tell their friends to go to Wrestle Kingdom next year. The thing is that it's going to be stretched out. There's going to be stuff in there that brings down the rest of the card potentially. I would love to see a junior title match headline one of the nights. I think that would be really cool. The only way I can really see it 3 nights being worth it is if there's a real surprise winner for the G1, in a sense, maybe someone like Kenta, and then another night there's somebody who we expect more to challenge for the title, like an Okada, Abushi, Naito. I don't know. It's stretching too far, but I get it. I understand why they've done it, and I hope they make the best of it.
And Trent, you already mentioned what you think will be the main events, and Shingo will defend his title night 1, Ospreay night 2, and then the winners will face each other on night 3. But what do you think of the overall Wrestle Kingdom 16 being 3 nights?
Look, it's clearly a money move. That's what kept them going when the pandemic first hit, was that second night of Wrestle Kingdom. I think while there's still restrictions, and I do think they'll still have restrictions in January for Japan, it's their way of getting as much money through for this big event as possible. If they can find a way to make this Wrestle Kingdom event special, it'll be worth it, because potentially they can draw upon this partnership with AEW, get one or two of those guys over, maybe Brian Danielson over, make that a big special night. Their partnership with Stardom is increasing now that they can be shown on New Japan World. Maybe they can have a Goddess of Stardom tag match on one night, or an Artist of Stardom match one night, just to give that a bit of a boost. If they can make this kind of like a carnival, a festival of great wrestling, and they've got these extra spaces to put these matches in, it could be really good. But if it means we're getting a Chase Owens Wrestle Kingdom match, because they can't find people to fill these nights with, then it's going to reduce the legitimacy and the spectacle that is Wrestle Kingdom. It used to be the most exciting show of the year, and it happened in the first week. Now it's dividing the amount of incredible matches on one night that there can be.
Well, that about rounds it up. Thank you for joining this roast of Chase Owens. We hope you enjoyed it. An overwhelming consensus that Toru Yano is going to win the G1 Climax, go on to win the title at Wrestle Kingdom, put the Forbidden Door through a wood chipper, and take the A title from Kenny Omega to further cement himself as the greatest wrestler of all time.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And when the G1 Climax is over, please feel free to mock everybody here for our terrible picks. We are Wrestle In, and now we're out. Thanks for listening.